Wednesday, the 22nd. We will be starting the new year on the human design calendar. And so what that means is the sun moves into gate 41. And throughout the cycle of a year, the sun moves through all 64 of the gates or the 64 hexagrams. And it's usually about 6 days each that it moves through each gate. And so as we are moving into that gate 41 to really start the new year from an energetic human design standpoint, we move into this energy of the gate of the dreamer, the gate of imagination. And so this is the space. We are in an energy right now where we're prepping for what we're going to plant for 2025. And I love the way Karen Curry Parker talks about this, where she really uses the 4 quarters of the human design calendar in an analogy as she talks about planting and harvesting your garden. And if you think about before you plant the seeds, there needs to be a time for you to go through the seed catalogs or you to actually think about, what do I want to plant this year? Maybe last year you planted a vegetable garden and this year you want a flower garden, or last year you really focused on tomatoes and zucchini and this year you want to focus on green beans and peppers. I don't know. But the point is, we need a period of time to really look and reflect back and look at the harvest we had from the prior season to say what worked well, how did my harvest run, what are some ways that maybe I need to reassess the soil or look at how I'm planting. Am I planting the right thing in the right climate? It's the same kind of thing for our business and for how we navigate through our life. And this year in particular, it's going to be really important because one of the things that I want to stress is there are some keynotes or themes that are going to push on us this year as leaders. And I'm going to offer some of those things. I'm going to offer you some contemplations because while nobody jumped on the Q&A or the heart seat session, I want to offer you some tools to sit in a little bit of contemplation. We are still in winter. We are still in that recalibration quarter, fourth quarter. So the new human design year, the new solar year, the new solar cycle starts while that's hard to say, while we are still in Q4, meaning we're in this quarter of recalibration. So it's a lot of deep introspection. It's a lot of slowing down. And I know there's a lot of energy right now. And some of that is the narrative and the programming that we have been sold the bill of goods since the moment we've come into this earth, especially if you're in the Western Hemisphere. It's all been about getting your hustle on, getting things moving, cranking up the momentum, starting to wind and grind again and burn and churn and like making shit happen. And I'm going to tell you that energy always is not the energy at the beginning of the year, but particularly this year, we need to be very careful because there's a lot of implosion points that are going to be happening the end of this fourth quarter and going into the first quarter. And there's going to be a lot of wasted energy, wasted resources if we think we got to crank things up and we got to get a lot of shit going. And we do that from a place of force. There are some things that we can play with and we can test. It's more of a beta season. It's more of a, let me kind of do a sampling of the soil and see how it's going to be. Is it fertile right now? Is it rich enough? Is it have the nourishment and the nutrients it needs so that I can grow what I want to grow? It's kind of that same place. Like I color my hair. They tell you to take a piece of hair and do kind of a test sample. You're kind of in a testing place. You're looking at things from last year. You're assessing what worked. You're moving. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule where you're dropping off the 80% you don't need to come into this year, but really harnessing the power of the 20% that worked well and creating opportunity to leverage that further. And so inside of that, I want you to consider for a moment that right now is a place to still be in a slowdown. I don't know if some of you are on my email list, you got an email from me that I talked about. We're kind of in the goo right now. We're in this chrysalis. We are the caterpillars entering into an entirely new phase. We're moving into a new level of consciousness. And right now we're in that really kind of painful, kind of gooey, kind of, I don't know what's happening. Space where the biggest thing that we can create opportunity for ourselves is in our own stability. And so there's a wobble that, especially the first half of this year, this wobble is really unsettling. It's an energy unlike anything we've experienced so far. And I know that the word unprecedented and uncharted and all this stuff keeps getting overplayed. And there's a reason that those words keep showing up, because it's really true. What we're going to experience in 2025 is unlike anything that we've experienced thus far. And it's creating this really wobbly, shaky, unsettling energy that has us feeling like we're kind of sitting in this like pool of goo where we don't know how to move forward. We can't move back, because here's the thing about evolution is once you move forward and once you know new things and you have new insights and you're opened up to greater wisdom, you can't go back to what you knew before. And so there's a lot of resistance right now, whether from yourself or from other people. There's a lot of people that don't want to cross that bridge over into the new consciousness that's happening, whether we like it or not. And so there's a lot of push, there's a lot of resistance, there's a lot of fear and scarcity that says, I want to go back to the way things were. You hear that constantly, whether it's on the political scene, whether it's in the way people are running their businesses. They want to go back to what they know. However, what they know is breaking apart. What we've always known, or what we've thought we've known, is right now being broken apart. The systems, the beliefs, the ways that we operate, the ways that we relate, the ways that we create and manifest, especially on the material plane and through our businesses, whether it be through sales, marketing, how we look at money, success. All of that right now is coming to a head. And we're in this really interesting point. And I talked about this last time, where we have one foot in steeped in the old. And for some people, they are trying to anchor in and like, I don't want to leave the old. And we're getting moved into, and this is happening again, whether or not we want it to. This is the way evolution works. We evolve, and we can either do it in a place where we create stability for ourselves and we can move through that with greater ease, or we can create a whole shit ton of extra struggle because we have all this resistance and fear and we don't want to move into the unknown, because it's the unknown, it's uncharted territory. And for a lot of us, we have so much programming around, I don't know what's on the other side, so therefore I'm going to pull back. So here's what I want you to consider. And as you look at your chart, for some of you, if you really want to dig into your chart on a deeper level, there's a couple ways to do that. If you still need to access your chart, go out. You can get your free chart and a free summary report at candybarone.com/HD-chart. So human design chart, HD chart. You can go out, you can get your chart, and you can get a free summary report around the key foundational pieces in your specific design to help you gain some of that initial insight. Then if you would like to go deeper, you can reach out. We can do a personalized one-on-one reading, and we can really help you understand the current narrative you are operating in the story of how you talk about who you are and how you are for yourself and in the world. And this is really big, because as we move into this year, we're being asked to really look at that. We are being asked to let go of this old identity of how we've allowed this conditioning and programming to hold us back. Because I would offer, myself included, none of us are playing in our full capacity. And we now are being prompted and ushered into a new era and a new aspect of leadership that is asking us to fully step into that authentic sense of who we are, into a more enlightened and expansive and empowering story that has us connecting back into source, back into our God consciousness, back into a space to know that we are not separate, that we are divine, and that we are here to create miracles and manifest from a place of our own gifts and superpowers, and that we each are a piece of that cosmic puzzle. And there is no accident why we are on this earth at this time in this moment. And so I feel like 2025 is creating that call for the new wave of leadership to step forward. It's calling those of us that are the way showers, the light warriors, those of us that have known from the minute we have entered this incarnation in this world at this time. We have known that we are here with great purpose. We have known that we have had a mission. We have known that something's been calling us, even if we haven't been able to language it, there has been a pull. And for so any of us that have felt that pull at any point in our life, and if you're a 6'2", man, you've probably been feeling this from the minute you could like think about anything. Same with you, that any of you that are like 5 lines. There's a call that is pulling us forward that says, I'm here for visionary leadership. I'm here to be a teacher with a capital T, not an academic like I need to lecture and teach, but I'm here to guide and help others usher into the new era and move through that bridge, move through that chrysalis, that goo, the wobble that's happening right now. And so here's what I want you to consider, and I want you to look at it in respect to your chart. So first of all, and I talked about this last time as well, we are in what's known as a 9 cycle, or a 9-year in numerology. So the planet itself is at a completion point. There are 9 cycles within the full kind of cycle of how we move through things. And we are currently in a 9 cycle. For me personally, I'm in a 1 cycle. So there's already kind of a play of, okay, I'm in this space of really asking myself what can be completed, what can be let go of, what can be released. And I'm also in this energy of, oh my goodness, it's time to start some new things. It's time to plant some new seeds. What does that look like? And so I'm taking this time right now before the new year really comes to play to assess those things. I'm still kind of cocooning. And so if you've noticed, I've been out a little bit and I'm coming back in. I haven't been fully out like I normally am because I'm still in this period of cocooning where I'm kind of looking at the soil that I'm playing in, and I'm looking at where it's most fertile, and I'm looking at where the need is, and I'm recognizing that we need to create some things that are different and new, and I need space and stillness to give myself a place to assess that. So we move into the beginning of the new year, January 22nd, which is next Wednesday, as the sun moves into gate 41. And we don't move officially into the new year until February 4th. And so when you look at, we've still got this period because the lunar new year starts January 29th. We still have this energy of getting ourselves settled before we actually start to then, and a lot of times when you plant a garden, I don't know, I'm not a big gardener, my mom is, but I know a lot of times you create the seedlings first and then you go plant. And for some of you, depending on where you live, February isn't really the time to be putting shit in the soil, if you know what I mean. Even in Austin, it's our coldest month. It doesn't make sense, but you may be starting to grow things in incubators. And so think about the reason why we have greenhouses and we have hot lights and we have these things. We're creating these incubation spaces. It's the same thing you need to be thinking about for your business. Right now, you are looking at how do I test and sample and create these beta incubators. There's a little window at the end of February. We could do a bigger launch, kind of February 26th to 28th. But I'm going to tell you, you're not going to want to do a lot of planting and a lot of new until after March. There's a lot of energy right now that is pushing, that's very fiery, especially when it comes to the way we communicate and relationships. And so we're going to have an opportunity where expectations are going to be missed. Like no matter how clear we get, it's going to fall on somebody's ears completely differently than the way that we intended. And there's going to be all this kind of friction going on. Rather than trying to overcome all that, use this place to test in small pockets to create your incubations so that then when April comes, April's really juicy. April then is going to be a big season of planting, of launching, of putting new things out in your business. And then when you move into May, because the way the planets and the transits move, we get the opportunity to experience different things. Those of you that are not a Manny Gen like me can actually experience the power of being a Manny Gen and having a lot of energy to do the things you need to do to tend to your garden coming out of April and May, because the energy is going to be so aligned. So for those of you that are not a generator type, that are like, need to think about how you work very differently, especially going into 2025, I want you to recognize that when we come into that end of that crossover into April and especially May, you might feel like all of a sudden you've got this burst of energy that you want to do something with, and you want to create, and you want to be like really visible and out. I want you to recognize that that's an opportune time for you to align and borrow that energy as the planets are moving in the transits and take advantage of the energy that's available to you. Because again, we have everything in the chart. It's a matter of what is in your chart. And so you might want to start watching where the transits are moving, or stay tuned and come join us in the pond, because then we're going to be talking about the different energies that are going to be moving week to week so that we know how best to harness that and leverage that in a way that feels easy and in a way that opens up opportunities and lets us tap into our own magic, rather than creating this push and this pull and this resistance that is going to make things even harder. This year is not going to be easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We are going to have a tough year that is going to keep us in that wobble. And the biggest thing that we can offer ourselves is this sense of stability. So when you think about the key roles or the key ways we have opportunities to show up, one is to allow ourselves space to be grounded, centered, and create our own stability that is sustainable as we navigate out through this year. Meaning, we have to do some inner work and come back to who we are. We need to quiet down a little bit and stop playing in all the external noise. We need to stop letting everything outside of us take us out. And this, I will tell you, I have, and I know I shared this in an article I wrote recently, coming back to my own vitality, some of the energy that I've been experiencing, that the fact that the body does keep score. Really understanding that when I don't practice a level of detachment from what is all playing out in the world right now, and if I get too tethered into that, or I allow myself to internalize what's going on a cellular level, my body actually shuts down. I can't show up as the leader I'm here to be when I'm in everybody else's stuff. And I really got to experience that firsthand at the start of 2025. My body shut down. My back was seizing up. I have scoliosis, and it was just my lower back. I couldn't walk. Then my knee popped and I couldn't walk there. Today, I'm actually really excited because it's the first day I've been able to, one step at a time, go up and down stairs without having to do the little kid shuffle. For a while, I actually had to butt scoot down my stairs because that's how much energy got stuck in my body. And that energy was a function of me not practicing a level of detachment, which is a huge theme in my chart. Detachment, high functioning codependency, being able to know that I am not responsible for how people step into their potential. It's really hard sometimes because as a leader, I see things I want people to really access, and it's none of my business if they don't. And so really creating that space to do the inner work, to come back and get my body back in alignment so that I can listen. I can listen to what my body is telling me is aligned for me and is not. I've got to remember how to create energetic boundaries and how to disengage and detach from the external noise that's going on. And I would say for a lot of you right now, that is a huge opportunity and a theme. We are in, if you look at the planet right now and you look at the north node and the south node of where energy is at, when we look at the north node is all about the energy of spirit. It's in the gate 25. And it means that we have this opportunity to remember how deeply connected we are to the one source, one God, whatever you choose to believe. But we are, when we can bring ourselves back into that higher consciousness, that God consciousness, and we can remember and we can connect back into our own soul, our own source, our own spirit, the spirit of life itself, and know and trust that we are fully supported and that we are not separate from anything, we then can bring our body into alignment, which is the south node, which a lot of times is the lessons in our immaturity that we need to experience. And so the planet itself right now is in the space of wherever we're out of alignment, we're feeling that in our body. So the planet is feeling it in her body. It's why some of the things are happening that are happening right now. And we also, it manifests, especially if this is in your chart, this might be a theme for you. It's in my chart, gate 46. It's that gate of embodiment, and it's the gate of love of body. And it's the truth teller that says the body really does keep score. So where and if and where you're out of alignment, you're going to experience some of that in things that may be illnesses or COVID, or like me, paralysis in my body. I actually could not move. I had 3 instances where I woke up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and I was paralyzed and freaking out that I live alone with my dog. And I'm like, I can't even get from my bed to the bathroom now. As I grounded myself and calmed myself back into my being, I was able to let that paralysis pass because I trusted that it wasn't a physical symptom. It was actually energy that was stuck in my body. I've also done some work with my functional chiropractor and done some Reiki. And again, bringing myself back into my body. Same thing with my knee. I was not able to walk the first week of January, had a knee brace, was really struggling. And now everything's been cleared back out of my body because I had to remember that my body is telling me, whoa, you're out of alignment. And I will say, since the election and other things, I didn't realize how much I started holding on again to energy that isn't mine to control. And so there's that aspect of letting go of control. We are going to be challenged, and I'm going to use that word deliberately, challenged and invited into a space to really strengthen our ability to surrender to faith and trust, and not just trust in of source and spirit itself, but trust of ourselves and what we are here to do, and to know that we will be fully resourced and supported in every capacity when we step into a place where we are aligned as fuck. And so I want you to understand we are going to get challenged to step into deeper aspects of surrender, to really trust, and to lean into a space of faith over fear. And we are going to be asked, especially towards the second part of this year, to step into a whole nother level of courage. We're going to be asked to put our brave on. And so it's not going to be easy. And there are going to be people that are going to fight that. And there are going to be people that are going to need you as a leader to help guide them through that goo, that wobble that feels like they're in the midst of a chrysalis, in order for them to emerge on the other side in that space of evolution and allowing their butterfly wings to spread, right? So the first piece around that is really creating stability for yourself and staying connected into your own internal compass. I will tell you, decisions do not come from our mind. We have a lot of programming that says we need to be logical, we need to be linear, we're going to analyze things. We need to learn how to drop into our bodies to hear the truth of what really is aligned for us. And I'm going to offer that for a lot of you, myself included, this is not going to be something that has shown up for us before. We are going to get pushed into new ways to lead, new ways to support ourselves and others, new ways to build our businesses and bring our messages to those that need to hear it, to be the lighthouse, to draw in the right opportunities and the right people. I want you to recognize that you are being asked to drop in and start to learn to trust the inner knowing that's already within you, that is your internal guidance system. You have a GPS, regardless of whether you have a defined G center or an open G center. You have a defined GPS within you that knows. And when I say the knowing, I'm not talking about knowing from an analytical or intellectual standpoint. I'm talking about knowing on the deepest level, in that cellular knowing of beingness that says, I know, like I know, like I know, and I sometimes can't even explain why. And for those of you that are line twos in your profiles like me, I know you know what I mean by that. And if you have that gate 57, this is a very big energy that you can tap into, and you recognize, you all of us can tap into it. But if you've got a line 2 and a gate 57, my guess is you really know what I'm talking about. But it's that knowing that you can't explain how you know, you just know. And we need to start to trust that that is the internal compass that guides us forward. It's not whether or not A plus B equals C or 1 plus 1 equals 2. We need to allow ourselves room for new equations, and ones that don't make sense based on everything we've been taught, our programming, our conditioning, and otherwise. So the biggest opportunity is to stabilize ourselves. It's to ground ourselves. It's to center ourselves. We need more space for stillness. We need more space for meditation, reflection. We need more space for quiet so that we can drown out all that noise that's going on outside of us, and we need to be able to do our own inner work. We are going to be pushed into new levels of healing the shit that we are here to heal, and looking at, so everything that's defined in your chart is your soul curriculum. It's the archetypes of the experiences you're here to have and learn through that spectrum of, am I in the shadow of that, or how do I move into the gift and the higher consciousness of that? That is your soul curriculum. And then everything that's open in your chart is what you're experiencing through your relationships with others. So it's how the planets are moving, it's how you interact and engage with others who then bring that energy. And how do you create the wisdom and discernment to know how you want to use that energy? Because again, we have everything. It's a matter of, are you getting that energy from a consistent well and access from yourself that you are tapping into, or are you experiencing it, sampling it, and bringing it in and borrowing it from others, and then amplifying it and using it when and how you need, and then discharging it when you're done? Really important that we understand that. And so this is the opportunity. We also had an opportunity to be in a space to really intentionally hold the vision of what we want to call in and what we see as the opportunity as we're moving into the next level of consciousness and evolution. And so we have those of us that really know we're way showers and light warriors. And by the way, if you're listening right now, I'm going to call you out and say you are. There's a vision. There's a vision for how humanity can come to play together. There's a vision for love and us not being separate. There's a vision for how we change the nature of the current world outside of us. Really, this is the opportunity to hold on to that vision like nobody's business and keep playing with it, keep dreaming it. We're moving into this dreaming imagination energy come next week as we start the new human design new year. Be in the energy of holding the power and magic of what that vision keeps calling to you. There's a reason you have that vision. There's a reason. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention when your mind wanders and you daydream, and the things that sort of pop up. Pay attention when you're like, oh, it would be so great if. There's messages in that for you. And that is all aligned with your way of how you're here to show up and what you're here to offer the world. So allow that to manifest. Allow that to take time every day to play in that. The more we bring energy to that vision, it's the law of attraction, right? What we think and speak about, we bring about. Give yourself space to play with that. And there's a lot of energy for play right now. Not a lot of energy for push and pull and all this stuff, but play, creativity. Like the play is such a creative force that when we can play with the ideas and the dreams and the things that are surfacing for us, there's magic in that. And so that's what's being ushered in. That's what's being asked of those of us that are here to usher in the new era and help others cross that bridge into the new consciousness and how we are evolving as humanity. And like I said, it's happening whether we want it to or not. So we can fight it or we can embrace it and tap into the energy and use it as something that's magical and really awesome, etc. And so I want you to think about what you need to be doing in terms of your own rituals and practices to get yourself in a place where you are consistently tapping in to that energy of creating that stability during the wobble. You are doing whatever inner work you need to keep yourself in alignment and connected to spirit, source, God, whatever you want to call it. What are the daily practices and rituals you need to move you into that higher consciousness and next evolution? And I'm going to offer that a lot of what you've been doing is probably not serving. This is that year of completion, is no longer the habits, the rituals, the practices that are going to carry you forward. And so to get really honest with, okay, this way I start my day is not getting me aligned with how to really step into this vision and how to activate my leadership for what's needed right now and what I'm being asked. There's a lot of courage in looking at, I know right now it's another reason why I'm still cocooning. I'm looking at my practices. There are things that I'm like, that doesn't serve anymore. That's an old version of how I showed up. And now that actually is creating an energy that makes me feel stuck. And so, how do I close that and bring in something else that is going to feel more expansive? And some of that might be rituals and practices that you have fought or had resistance against. And for me, I'll give you an example. Meditation is one I struggle with. Meditation is one where I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't like to sit still. And I will tell you, every time I really get quiet, I am being told I need much more space for stillness. I need space to connect to spirit. I need space to connect to my truth. And I really need to allow myself to embrace a different practice, a new practice, ritual around how I meditate on a regular basis and likely meditate multiple times through the day. That is a big shift for me. I have different ways I meditate and practices, but I'm getting shown that there's a new way for me to do that. And there's a part of the old me that's like, I don't want to do that. I resist that. And there's all kinds of reasons I resist that. And I know, and I've tapped into some of my fear around that. And I also know that if I'm going to be able to do the work that's being called and ushered through me, I need to honor that that's a practice that is meaningful for where I'm at and is going to allow me a much more expansive way to access my gifts to lead what I'm here to lead. And so that's an example where I would offer to you, get very honest and look at what practices you need to cultivate, what practices you need to bring in, and which ones you need to let go of. Because I get we have comfort in, I know, but this is the way. And even for me, here's another one. I have my coffee and it's kind of loaded with all kinds of, I drink cream with coffee versus coffee with cream. I'm also feeling in my body and I've been experimenting. I feel while I need to get over kind of my caffeine crash. I feel different when I have clean herbal tea or lemon water than I do when I have coffee. My body is like, I don't know if I want all of that in me. It doesn't feel as pure. It's another ritual for me that I am right now exploring. It might be time to let go. And what's interesting is wasn't even a coffee drinker until I was 40 years old. I'm 51 now. Only drank water in the morning. I was not. And so I'm feeling a call to come back to something that says this is just not something I want to, for me, it's not something that feels aligned with the purity of energy I'm trying to create in my body. Same thing with some of the things that I eat that have worked for me in the past that now I'm looking at differently. These are examples of those practices to cultivate that really allow you to be in alignment to one, create that stability for yourself, but two, to allow yourself to be that pure channel or vessel of what is asking to be brought forward for you as a leader through your gifts and the way that you communicate message and the way that you're showing up in the world. Which leads me to the second question I want you to contemplate. So, one is the practices. What practices do I need to let go of? And what practices do I need to cultivate? Practices or rituals to move me into a position to be the leader to usher in the new consciousness for myself and those that I'm here to support and serve. The second question then is, who do I need to become in order to be that channel? Who do I need to become in order to stand in this brave, this courage that's asking me to step into my next level? We are here to guide. We are here to be resources that can show others who are stuck in that scarcity, stuck in that resistance, a pathway that creates more empowerment, that creates more embodiment, that creates more enlightenment and creates more expansion. We've got to then ask ourselves, who do I need to become in order to do that as a way shower, a light warrior, and being that force um, that is here to guide, right? It's not here to do it for people. It's not here to take that responsibility. It's not here to whatever else. It's here to guide and demonstrate and be a role model in demonstrating what that exemplary space in our next level of evolution really looks like. And then the last one is, how do I quiet down the noise? How do I not let the disruption of what has been the old programming or the conditioning of the old programming or the distraction of the noise, the level of noise outside of us right now is at an all-time high. There is no lack of external noise going on in the world right now, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our businesses. How do you create opportunities to not let those disruptions and distractions take you out? What are the energetic boundaries you need, and how do you bring yourself back to a space where you are truly grounded in your own alignment and you know that you are here to steer your own ship? So you are really holding yourself in a place that says, I can control what I can control, which is what I believe, expect, think, say, and do. I can control how I respond versus react, because we're really moving out of this energy of reaction into a space of very intentional and deliberate response. I can't control what's going on outside of me. I can control what I do with it, if anything. I can control the me inside of all of that noise. And again, this might mean that you need to pull yourself off the grid a little bit and you need to come back to a place where you cocoon more often. You get quiet, you allow yourself some breath, um, and you allow yourself a place to honor that you need to make decisions that are in your best interest for your own well-being first. It's that adage of, when I take care of me, period, all is taken care of, period. We can change the vibrational frequency of how we're moving into this evolution and new consciousness simply by redirecting how we use our own energy for ourselves. When we do our own work to align ourselves into our true, radical, authentic self, and we create the practices, rituals, and container to hold ourselves at the highest esteem in our own well-being first, all is taken care of. And this is the energy that's coming in. When we can do that, while we can't control the wobble, it's going to be wobbly. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It is going to be wobbly this year. And we can embrace the wobble as something to be excited about, something to be curious about, something to stay in a state of wonder and allow ourselves to be aligned and move in flow with the wobble, or we can create an entire shit show for ourselves and everybody else because we are resisting, we are fighting, we are pushing against the wobble. I'm going to tell you, the wobble is going to probably knock you out if you do that. And so for me, I know I'm going to embrace the wobble as much as possible. And I'm taking this time right now to still stay in a space where I'm slowly entering into 2025, because there is no reason to rush it. There is no reason. I don't need to hit the ground doing anything. I don't need to get a whole lot of shit done. I need to create a space of invitation for those who know the value of what I do and how I can be a guide for them, how I can be that lighthouse that's really positioned, that naturally and organically calls in those that need the gifts and the magic I have to offer. And I would invite you to consider doing the same.